It's homework time, yes! Here we go again. Let's do it. Jot our name down. It's papers. I'll write my name. You write yours. When you turn it in, you get credit for your work. Or if you just set it down, you know it's yours, right? Even if you don't turn it in. Date today is today. You write the actual date, though. Our instructions are solve. So let's do that. 1/16 of a pound equals how many ounces? This was the whole point of that whole lesson here, lesson 13, right? That if you look at this and say, okay, hey, here's a pound all the way here. This is 1 pound on this number line or in this tape diagram. Then 1 out of the 16 parts, 1/16 of a pound is 1 ounce. And so armed with that knowledge right there from letter A, that 1/16 of a pound is 1 ounce, we can figure out things like, hey, 2/16 of a pound is 2 ounces, 3/16 of a pound is 3 ounces, and so on. And so now in this B here, though, we're given not 16ths. In fact, if you look, we're going to deal with fourths, 3/4, 1/8, 5/8. We're not given 16ths again, because that's too easy. So they want to make us work a little bit. So half a pound. Well, look. There's a couple ways we could do this. We'll do equivalent fractions on some of these, but if you look at this one, we can just think about it logically and say, well, halfway to 16 is 8. So half a pound is 8/16 of a pound, or 8 ounces. So 8/16 of a pound, 8 is half of 16, equals half a pound equals 8 ounces. Beauteous. All right, now 1/4 of a pound. All right, well, let's think about that one in terms of equivalent fractions. We have to do some work over here. Okay, so if we say, hey, we're going from fourths to 16ths. This is the same as equivalent fractions. 4 times what is 16? 4 times 4 is 16. So if we multiply 1/4 times 4/4, the value of 1, thereby changing the form but not the value of the original fraction, we end up with an equivalent fraction, which is more useful to us here. 1 times 4 is 4. So 1/4 equals 4/16. So 1/4 of a pound is the same thing as saying 4/16 of a pound, which of course is the same as saying 4 ounces. All right, we see how this works now. And we can do the same with 3/4 of a pound. So let's set up for our equivalent fractions here. 3/4 times some value of 1 will give us 16ths. Well, still 4 times 4 is 16, so we're multiplying 3/4 times 4/4, and now 3 times 4 is 12, right? So 3/4 equals 12/16. So 3/4 of a pound is 12/16 of a pound, which equals 12 ounces. All right, that makes sense. Yeah, it's 3 times the numerator and 3 times as many ounces. That works. 1/8. Now, there's a tendency here to make an error with this particular one, so let's work carefully. 1/8 times what value of 1 will give us 16ths? Well, 8 times what is 16? 8 times 2. So if we multiply 1/8 times 2 halves, we get 2/16. There we go, which is equal to 1/8. So 2/16 of a pound equals 1/8 of a pound, which equals 2 ounces. 2/16 of a pound is 2 ounces. And that makes sense because 1/8 is half of 1/4 and 2 is half of 4, if you follow me there. All right, now when we look at 5/8, all right, let's set up the equivalent fractions again. And this only takes a couple of seconds, so you'll be okay. We'll do it out. 8 times what is 16? Well, it's still 2, so we're multiplying 5/8 again by 2 halves. 5 times 2 is 10. So 5/8 equals 10/16, and 10/16 of a pound is 10 ounces. Woo! Yeah! We did it. Number 1. Let's roll on. And number 2 here bridges right off that, and 3 we'll see is very similar to number 1. So number 2, we're going to draw a tape diagram to show that 1 1/4 pounds is equal to 20 ounces. Now, this is one where I'm quite glad you're here with me because I think this is one that would be a little confudulating to your parents because this is not the way we did it when we was youngsters. All right, so there's a tape, right? Okay, it's a rectangle. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw out 2 pounds. Why 2 pounds? Because this is more than 1 pound. So I'm going to go all the way to 2 just to give it perspective. The same way when we're making a number line. You'll make it a little bit longer than you actually need just to give you perspective. And I'm making a nice heavy line there dividing 1 pound from the second pound. And I'm going to label them as such. This here is 1 pound. And this also is 1 pound. Lovely. Okay, and then this here I can also call how many ounces? Yeah, this is 16 ounces, this 1 pound, which we had just done, right? We just discovered that. Now, I can actually leave that first pound just like that. I don't have to decompose that any further because it is 1 whole, right? Now, for the 1/4 pounds over here, I'm going to use dotted lines. Divide it in half and divide the halves in half. Remember this? Okay, and now I'm going to shade in 1 1/4, so it's the whole 1 pound, and then the 1/4 pound, and so this now is how many ounces? Well, it would be the 1/4 pound is 16 ounces divided in 4 parts. Okay, so 16 divided by 4 is 4. 4 times 4 is 16. So this here, this 1/4 pound is 4 ounces. And I could even write equals 1/4 of a pound, 1/4 pounder. And so now I can, if I even want to go a little bit further, I can say, hey, these two together are 20 ounces. So this shows how 1 pound and 1/4, 1 1/4 pounds is equal to 20 ounces. Beautiful, did it. We really don't need this number line except to kind of glance at it and say, hey, look, it's showing us that 1 hour is the whole number line, and it's divided into 60 minutes. There you go. So 1 out of these 60 parts, 1/60th of an hour, is 1 minute. And once again, armed with that knowledge, we are able to go on to do the rest. Like, for example, if I asked, well, 12/60ths of an hour is 12 minutes. 22/60ths of an hour is 22 minutes. 39/60ths of an hour is 39 minutes. We see how it works. All right, so half an hour, and just like with the half pound, this is not one that we need to belabor with equivalent fractions. We know half an hour, look, is going to be this halfway point, which is marked with the longer line. That's 30 minutes. Okay, so it's 30/60ths. 30 out of the 60 minutes is half of an hour, which is 30 minutes. Okay, if you watch a half-hour show, it's 30 minutes long. All right, now 1/4 of an hour. Let's just make sure we're understanding this correctly. We'll do it out as equivalent fractions. So now here, though, we have to think a bit and say, what is it we multiply by 4 to get 60? Well, you might not know that right off, but when you think about it in terms of time, it becomes apparent because 1/4 of an hour is 15 minutes. Very good. So there are 4 15-minute segments in 60 minutes, which is to say that 4 times 15 is 60. There we go. 4 times 15 is 60. And if you do out the math, you'll confirm that. So we multiply 1/4 times 15/15ths, and we get 15/60ths, which makes total sense. 15/60ths is 1/4 of an hour, which we also call 15 minutes. Yes. All right, let's look at the next one. Now this is, 1/3. Oh, okay. Well, we're going to do it the same way. Let's say we're going from thirds to 60ths. What do we multiply by? 3 times what is 60? We know 3 times 2 is 6, so 3 times, got it, 20 is 60. So we multiply that 1/3 by 20 20ths to get the equivalent fraction of 20/60ths. Very good. So 20/60ths would be 20 out of the 60 minutes, which is 20 minutes. Lovely. Let's do some more. Yay! And number 4 instructs us to draw a tape diagram to show that 2 1/4 hours equals 135 minutes. Okay, we can do that. All right. So just as we did before, because the value is over 2, we're going to draw it out to 3 hours in our tape just to give it a little breathing space, same as we do on a number line. All right, so there's our tape diagram, and we're going to divide it into 3 parts. So we'll draw 2 lines in there to make 3 hours. And go back and make these just a little heavier. Okay, good. All right, so each of these is 1 hour. So let's go ahead and label those. 1 hour, 1 hour, 1 hour. Okay, good. Now, 2 of these hours are 2 whole hours. So these will be quicker to label because that's 1 hour is how many minutes? Well, it's 60 minutes. And the reason I'm labeling that is because we're trying to figure out, hey, indeed, is that 135 minutes? Okay. And then this one is also 60 minutes. Now, when we get to this 3rd hour here, we're going to decompose it first into half, and then into quarters. And so here's 1/4 of an hour, and as we actually just did this, 1/4 of an hour we know is 15 minutes. And if you want to calculate that again, go for it, but we just did it, so we're just going to say it's 15 minutes. Now when we add these up, 60 and 60 and 15, and it'd be good and right to go ahead and shade in the 2 1/4 hours here. When we add up the 60, 60, and 15, 0, 0, 5 are 5, 6, 6, and 1. 6 and 6 are 12, and 1 more is 13. So look at that. It is 135 minutes. Very nice. Now, number 5 is a little longer, so we're going to do it in 2 sections. Let's get started. Bow, wow, chicka, chicka, bow, wow. Number 5 says solve. Bow, wow. Okay, let's do it. This is going to be pretty straightforward because all we have to do here to convert these, say, pounds to ounces and so on, is just decompose the numbers. So watch this. Okay, so we take these 2 pounds here, and we say, 2 pounds, well, each pound is 16 ounces. So 2 pounds is twice 16. And I bet you've memorized by now, because I've been telling you to do so, that 16 doubled is 32. Okay, so that's going to be 32 ounces. And then 1/4 of a pound is going to be 1 out of 4 parts of those 16 ounces. In other words, 16 divided by 4, and we had just done this up above. Right, it's going to be 4 ounces. That 1/4 pound is 4 ounces. And we already, if you're not following that entirely, we just did the math on this, the equivalent fractions of 1/4 times 4/4 equals 4/16 of a pound, which is 4 ounces. So 32 and 4, I bet you can add those in your head. Yes, 36. And that's all we need to do on each of these. So now, watch, there's a nice shortcut here for this 4 pounds, which is doing 4 times 16 might make your head hurt. Oh, but we know 2 times 16 is 32. So we can just double 32 to get 4 times 16. 32 doubled, 32 plus 32, there's no regrouping. 64, very good. So 4 pounds is 64 ounces. Now with this 7/8. Okay. Now, we can think about this in a couple of different ways. We know that 1/8 of a pound is how many ounces? We had done this just up above. 1/8 of a pound is 2 ounces. So if, and I'll write this out just so you can see what I'm saying. If 1/8 of a pound is 2 ounces, if we multiply that by 7, sorry, that's supposed to be a 7. If we multiply that by 7, we get, I don't know what that was supposed to be, we get 14 ounces. Wake up, man! All right, So 64 ounces and 14 ounces. The other way to do that, and yes, I'm going to do it because I want you to learn this stuff right, is to say, well, look, if we could find equivalent fractions. So if what I did here, you're like, I don't quite follow you, man. Here's what you can always do. Is just say, hey, 7/8 I want to think of in terms of 16, so I know how many ounces it is. 8 times 2 is 16. So if I multiply 7/8 times 2/2, that'll give me equivalent fractions. Same as we did equivalent fractions back in the fraction world. 7 times 2 is 14. 14/16 equals 14 ounces. Now we just have to put together the 64 and the 14. So 64 plus 14. You might be able to do it in your head, but I'll write it out. 4 and 4 are 8. 6 and 1 are 7. So 4 and 7/8 pounds equals 78 ounces. Great. Notice here they're doing pounds and ounces again, but they switched to the abbreviations. Remember libra and onza, the Latin and Italian words for pound and ounce? Well, that's what we have here. So now 6. This is cool. Watch this. 6 pounds. Boy, doing 6 times 16 will give us the number of ounces, but look, I see a way to do this. We know 4 times 16. We know 2 times 16. If we put them together, we'll have 6 times 16. 64 plus 32. I bet you can even do that in your head. I'll write it out here just in case. 64 and 32. 4 and 2 are 6. 6 and 3 are 9. So 6 times 16 is 96. Doesn't that make it easier? And now with the 3/4, if you're looking at that saying, I'm not quite sure, well, look here. Here's a way to think about it. We know that 1/4 of a pound is 4 ounces. So 3/4 of a pound will be 3 times as much, right? 3 times 4 ounces, 12 ounces. Oh, brilliant. All right, ounces for both of those. Adding 96 and 12, hey, since we did this over here, we could just add that on. 6 and 2 make 8. 9 and 1 make 10. 108 ounces. Cool. Let's do this one. Now, look, we had just figured out, in this one, look, we figured out 4 pounds is 64 ounces. We don't need to do that math a second time. And 1/8 of a pound we wrote right here is 2 ounces. 64 plus 2, let me think about it. Okay, 66 ounces. All right, now, switching gears. We're going to hours and minutes. So our conversion factor is 60, not 16 now. So 1 hour, we know, is, I just said it, it's 60 minutes, right? We know that. 60 minutes. Make that look more like a 0. Okay, now 3/4 of an hour. Watch this. You know that a quarter of an hour, 1/4 of an hour, a quarter of an hour is 15 minutes. So 3 of those is 15, 30, 45. You remember that from doing time in 3rd grade, don't you? So this would be 45 minutes. And then when you go to add these together, you say, I see 60 and 40 make 100, and 5 more than 100 is 105. 105 minutes. Cool. 4 hours. Now this is going to be 60 times 4, and I'll write it out just so we can see it. But you know 4 times 6 is 24, times 10 is 240. We can do it this way. 4 times 0 is 0. 4 times 6 is 24, 240. Okay, so that's the 4 hours. Half an hour, we had just done this, right? What's half of 60? 30. And we'll write minutes for both of those. I do like labeling these things. All right, 240 minutes and 30 minutes, or just adding 40 and 30 make 70. So 270 minutes. Nice. Oh, there's more. All right, let's do it. Curse ye gods of math! I thought maybe there'd be like another 4 at most. Whew, we got 8 more to do. Okay, breathe. In through nose, out through mouth. Okay, we can do this. And notice here we're going to do 2 that are hours, minutes. Then, switching things up. Yards to feet again, using the abbreviations. Gallons to quarts again, using the abbreviations. Feet to inches, and likewise feet to inches again, using the abbreviations. Okay, we can handle this. 3 3/4 hours. We got it. All right. So this is going to be 3 hours is 60 minutes times 3. And we're going to do it the place value way. 3 times 6 is 18 times 10 is 180. Boom. We just did this. 3/4 of an hour. 1/4 is 15 minutes. So 15, 30, 45. So this is 45. And both of these are minutes. Minutes. And then we just need to put together the 180 minutes with the 45 minutes. And maybe you can just look at this and do it in your head. You're slick like that. I'll write it out. 0 plus 5 is 5. 8 and 4, 12. Place the 2, regroup the 1. 1 and 1 make 2. 225 minutes. All right, one more with hours and minutes. So here we're doing 5 hours. So it's going to be 60 minutes times 5 hours. And again, we can do this the place value method. 5 times 6 is 30, times 10 is 300. So 5 hours is 300 minutes. Now 1/3 of an hour is a little weird, isn't it? And I'll tell you, in real life, nobody speaks of 1/3 of an hour, really. I mean, not in regular real life. But let's go ahead and figure it out. So 3 times what is 60? Good. 3 times 20 is 60. So we multiply 1/3 by 20/20ths, that value of 1, and we get 20/60ths. So that means it equals 20. I'll take the time and write it out here. I'm kind of in a writing mood today. 300 minutes and 20 minutes? Okay, 320 minutes. Great. Now here we're going yards to feet. So our conversion factor is 3. That's right, 3, because there are 3 feet in a yard. Okay, so here we don't even have to write out the math. 4 yards times 3 feet per yard. 4 times 3 is 12. So that's 12 footsies. And now 2/3 of a yard, that's actually easier than it seems because there's 3 feet in a yard. So 2 out of the 3 feet is 2 feet. Yes, so that's pretty straightforward. 12 feet plus 2 feet. Yeah, 14 feet. Ah, it feels good. All right, so now here, 6 yards is how many feet? So 6 times 3. 6 yards times 3 feet in a yard, 18 feet. And now 1/3 of a yard is 1 out of the 3 feet in a yard. So it's 1 foot. There we go. And so 18 feet plus 1 foot is 19 footsies. Yeah. Okay. 4 and, sorry for that horrible accent. I don't even know what it was. 4 1/4 gallons is how many quarts? Well, on both these they use fourths, which I say because there are 4 quarts in a gallon. So we don't have to do any wicked conversions here. All right. So with 4 quarts in a gallon, 4 gallons is going to contain 4 gallons times 4 quarts per gallon to give us the number of quarts. 4 times 4 is, oh yes, thank you, is 16 quarts. And now 1/4 of a gallon means 1 out of the 4 parts of a gallon, and there are 4 quarts in a gallon, so that means 1 quart. There we go. Just like up there with the yards and feet. So 16 quarts and 1 quart is 17 quarts. All right. 2 gallons is how many quarts? Well, it's simply going to be 2 times our conversion factor of 4. 2 times 4 is 8. So 2 gallons is 8 quarts. And look, try how fast this is. I'm so fast. I'm so fast. Look, these are both gallons with 4 quarts in each. Can you see? Yes, you can see that there are 8 quarts and 2 gallons. Okay, I'm not just making this stuff up, man. All right, 3/4 of a gallon means 3 out of the 4 parts of a gallon. And those 4 parts we call quarts. So 3 out of 4 quarts means 3 quarts. 8 quarts plus 3 quarts is, yes, can you feel it? 11 quarts. Hallelujah. All right, 6 feet is how many inches? Okay, now our conversion factor is, that's right, 12, because there are 12 inches in a foot. So with these 6 feet, we need to multiply 12 inches per foot times 6 feet. Yeah. 6 times 2 is 12. Place the 2, regroup the 1. 6 times 1 is 6. Plus 1 is 7. So 6 feet is 72 inches. 1/4 of a foot. Again, not something people use in common usage. At least not that I'm familiar with. 1/4 foot? Nobody talks about a 1/4 foot. All right. But we do, I guess, here in Eureka land. 4 times what is 12? Well, it's 3. So if we multiply 1/4 times 3/3, that'll give us how many inches a 1/4 of a foot is. 1 times 3 is 3. So it's 3/12, which means it's 3 inches. 3/12 of a foot is 3 inches. 72 plus 3? 75. Very good. So 6 1/4 feet is 75 inches. Last one. 9 5/6 foot. And I'll tell you, nobody talks about 5/6 of a foot, y'all. But we'll do it anyway, because we good people. Do what we're supposed to do. All right, so if we take those 9 feet, multiply by 12 inches per foot, we'll know how many inches are in 9 feet. 9 times 2 is 18. I should be putting the regrouped 1 there. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 1 is 10. 108 inches in 9 feet. Now 5/6 of a foot there. All right. All right, 6 times what is 12? 2. So multiply 5/6 by 2 halves. And that gives us 10/12, which equals, of course, 10 inches. Added with the 108 inches gives us, that's right, 118 inches. And hot doggy hallelujah, gone done it again. Finished yet another homework time. And the end is near, dear friends. But hold on. We'll just keep plugging away with this homework time. And I'll see you again next time. It is once again homework time.